and stone bridges that still amaze us up on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And the government created Social Security, a system that lifted the elderly and disabled out of abject poverty. And they protected the right of workers to organize and implemented rules that protected people's savings and regulated Wall Street. The Democratic Party was seen as the party of the people, of the working person. Some even called themselves yellow dogs because they'd even vote for such a critter as long as he held the party. But most Americans, Republicans and Democrats alike, came to believe that government could work for the benefit of all. Through the following decades, the middle class grew, people could afford homes and cars and education. Democrats and moderate Republicans joined together to extend civil rights, protect the environment, build highway and utility infrastructure, and provide Medicare and Medicaid to once again help those who were elderly or infirm. We even had enough money to send a few lucky fellows to the moon. Prosperity spread throughout the nation. Then came a movement and a president intent on dismantling the middle class and the unions and stealing back the money we had wisely apportioned for the common good. Ronald Reagan preached that government was the problem. He made destruction of unions job one. And the right wing has successfully hammered that theme now for 30 years. Sadly, even many Democrats bought the story and began to embrace the anti-tax, anti-regulation mantra. Some even go so far as to call themselves blue dogs. And you know what that means? They'll vote for anything the Republicans propose. It's instructive to note that we could slash unemployment tomorrow if we went to a 32-hour work week like many European countries. And if we cut the retirement age to 62. Worker productivity has boomed in the last 30 years. You workers out there know what I know about my own work. We are doing more and more with less and less. But where has that wealth gone? It didn't come to the workers. Right now, 1% of Americans control more wealth than the bottom 95%. That's where the money went. And this is no accident that the top 1% controls more wealth than the bottom 95% in our country. It was not an accident, it was the plan. The too big to fail mortgage brokers and investment brokers were bailed out recently. They're back to their multi-million-dollar bonuses. But meanwhile, millions are still out of work. The real unemployment rate is far above what we're hearing reported. Houses are being foreclosed at record rates, and state and municipal governments are facing massive shortfalls. This last election, we saw the result of the collapse of our economy. People afraid for themselves and their families, many out of work, many losing their homes, many angry about Wall Street crimes, embraced Reagan's fairy tale, refurbished by a new set of politicians who said government bad. And so they voted for politicians who promised to shrink government and cut taxes. And now those politicians are claiming the shortage of funds as a reason to radically reshape governments and the fate of American workers. What we're seeing in Wisconsin and Indiana and Ohio and Michigan and the North Carolina General Assembly is not an accident. It is a plan. They're claiming now that the money we don't have because of that collapse of the economy is a reason to lay off teachers, to lay off medical workers, to defund Planned Parenthood. One stone after another, they're taking apart the edifice that was built from the 1930s forward. What many people forget is that during the 1950s and 60s, when prosperity really boomed in America, taxes were higher than they are today. The rich paid about twice what they're paying today, and even average people paid a little more, but it built the economy. I believe we need to remember that taxes are the dues we pay to live in civilization. I will cast my vote for those who say children come first. And mothers are the first responders. We need community health programs, aid for women with dependent children, better schools, better universities, safe highways and bridges, dependable water systems, adequate police and fire protection, and tighter regulation of Wall Street. These are goals we can afford to pay for. We can afford to choose them. We can make this state and this country great again. Today, in a sense, this is our Tahrir Square. Everywhere in the world, populist democracy is on the lips of people. It's on the lips of people in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Indiana, and Michigan, and Maine, and across our country, and here in Asheville, and in Raleigh, and across the state of North Carolina. I'm here to say to the GOP and the Blue Dogs, you have no right to subvert our country. Voters turned to you in fear. They were scared for themselves, for their families. They were scared about their homes. They were scared about their jobs. And they were looking for a different answer because they didn't think the current administration was answering their questions right. Maybe they weren't, but they didn't turn to you to ask you to slash health care, not to slash school spending. They didn't want you to steal the right for collective bargaining and workplace protection. This is our country, and we demand you give it back.